All right, plot twist, y'all. My computer isn't working, but I'm determined to get episode 7 of the Creativity Cure out there. So welcome. This is the Creativity Cure. I'm Bethany Joy, your host. And last time on episode 6, we talked about empathy, especially with people you disagree with. We used the book Never Split the Difference, and we reviewed how you can bring empathy when you need to solve a problem. We talked about how you need to focus on solving the problem, not solving the person, and how listening actually is a skill that can help you to bring solutions. But on episode 7, we are moving on. If you don't know, I'm Bethany Joy, and we are currently in a series on design thinking. Design thinking is a method that designers use to rapidly solve problems, and there are several steps to this. The first one we went through, it's empathize. The second one is define. Then you ideate, you prototype, and you test. And today we're going to move on to define. So when I started this podcast, The Creativity Cure, I really wanted to make design more accessible. And by that, I mean that everything around us is designed. And I think that a lot of people don't realize the power of design, not just to make things look pretty, but to make our world functional. And as humans, we are not robots, right? So design and function go hand in hand. There's a reason that our stoplights are red and our go lights are green. Someone designed it that way, looking at how humans behave. And design thinking is tapping into understanding how people naturally behave and then creating solutions that work with them instead of against them. So I'm talking about it because I want to bring you these concepts in a way that you can understand. So today we're going to talk about define. After we empathize, we talked about empathy for ourselves, empathy for, we talked about empathy for ourselves, and we talked about empathy when we are in arguments and disagreements, because to me, those are two places I thought people really may not think about empathy. So you need empathy for yourself. You need empathy when you're dealing with people who you don't agree with. And I think it's important to have that. But now we're going to move on to defining. So after you've empathized with someone or yourself, so you sought to understand them. Like that's a step in itself. Seeking to understand, listening, observing, watching. The next step is to define the problem. That's what designers do. Next, it's time to define the problem based on empathy. So let's talk about why you need to define your problems before you try and solve them. And I think that as I was writing my notes for this episode, I was thinking of one of my favorite movies from when I was a kid. I don't know if anybody else has seen this movie. It came out in 2007, and it's called Are We Done Yet? I think it was the sequel to Are We There Yet with Ice Cube, and it's hilarious. And there's a scene in the movie, right? Well, actually, let me just give you the rundown in case you haven't seen it. In this movie, the family is getting bigger. The wife is going to have twins, so they move out to the country, and due to various reasons, the main character buys a house sight unseen. So when they get there, all these antics happen as they're trying to get the house ready. And so the problems just keep compounding, right? The main character, Nick, gets frustrated because the real estate agent, who's also like everything in the town, keeps telling him, oh, there's just one more thing wrong with it. We'll fix it. And he's getting frustrated. And one day he walks in and he sees the construction crew like tearing up his floors because they found termites. And it started with like some light fixtures and electrical work needing to be done. And then it ended with, there are termites in the floor. We've got to tear the whole thing up. We've got to tear everything apart. And he just loses it. And it's really funny. But in that moment, one of the people working at the house tell him that it's got to get ugly before it gets beautiful. And so today, that's what we're going to talk about, that it has to get ugly before it gets beautiful. So when it comes to defining your problems, we have to understand the foundation of what's going wrong before we can get to the solution. And oftentimes we leap to solve a problem before we even understand what the problem is. So today we're going to talk about how can we take the time to define what the actual problem is. So before we go through that, I just wanted to show you these cool earrings I have, right? I made these because someone inspired me to think about the fact that you should always wear your own brand. These earrings say, be seen and celebrated. And honestly, that is what is at the heart of what I do as a photographer, as an artist. And what I do through this podcast is I want to see and celebrate people's creativity. I want to see and celebrate the community that I'm in. And so if you want to be a part of that, then I want you to visit BethanyJphotography.com. I want you to go and I want you to subscribe to my weekly newsletter where it only goes out once a week. I'm not spamming you every day, but once a week I send out a newsletter where I celebrate somebody in Maryland, particularly a woman who's being creative. So far we've had dancers, moms, we've had small businesses, and I love supporting locally. And so I wanted to give back. And so the Be Seen and Celebrated newsletter is at BethanyJphotography.com. Little pop-up comes up, sign up for it. Also, I am booking. I do portraits. So I have shifted from photography services towards being more of an artist. That means that I'm still available to do your portraits. You just need to, I'm still available for your portraits. I just do commissions. And if you want to see my work, which I think you would love, go to BethanyJphotography.com. Okay, so back to getting to the ugly before the beautiful. So why is it important that we define problems before coming up with solutions? As designers, we define problems to make sure that the solutions stay focused on the goal. Without a well-defined problem statement, it's hard to know what you're aiming for. So if you don't have a defined problem, your work's going to lack focus. The final design is not going to be what it needs to be. And I pulled this quote from Career Foundry, a blog on design thinking. And it says, like, in the absence of a clear problem statement, it's extremely difficult to explain to stakeholders and team members exactly what you're trying to achieve. So let's take that design concept and make it something applicable to everybody. In the absence of being able to clearly define your problem, it is difficult to ask for the right help. So it's hard to find the right solutions, and you'll spend time worrying about the paint chips on your house instead of the termites in the foundation. So that's why we define our problems. We don't want to spend hours worrying about the color of the paint on the wall when the truth is we really needed to tear the floor up. We also don't want to tear the floor up because we think there's a problem in the foundation, when really it was just, hey, let's paint the walls. The floor's actually fine. Your foundation's good. You just need to actually change the face of it. So I'm going to get into how we define our problems. And I wanted to, again, use reliable resources because I'm not an expert. And so I just want to bring you the things that I read because I think that they help me a lot. And I hope that by sharing them, they help you. One of the books I've been reading, and I mentioned it, is the Personal MBA, which is a good book because it covers such a wide range of topics. And so it goes into psychology a little bit, and it talks about why it's hard to define your problems. So one of the concepts that it talks about is something called reorganization. And it mentions that there are times in our lives where we will feel that something is wrong, but we don't know what. So we know there's a problem, we don't know what the problem is. And all we know is that we need to do something to change it. So the author says that sometimes you'll feel like you need to change, you don't know what it is, so you just take drastic action because you feel something has to change and you have to make it happen. So if you've ever felt lost or unsure, the first thing that he says is that it's normal to go through seasons of reorganization. It's normal to try and adjust when things aren't right. We don't always know what's wrong, and that is normal in itself. that feeling of doing something random to try and solve the problem is your brain's way of reorganizing. So what he says is that when you perceive that something is off based on your personal reference level, you, let's see, let me just read this. Okay, so he says that sometimes that action is well defined, as we discussed earlier. Your body knows what it needs to do to regulate blood glucose, for example. You don't have to tell your body to regulate your blood sugar. But the author says that, however, we don't know what is wrong or how to fix it. And a perception can be really abstract, like, I don't like my job. So there's a set point in your mind that stands for how happy I should be at work, and your perception of job satisfaction is an average of your actual experiences at work. Pleasant experiences move the average higher, unpleasant move them lower. So if your perception of job satisfaction is lower than you think it should be, your brain will kick into action. I'm not happy as I should be. Something needs to change. So you may not know what that something is. You don't know if you would be happier if you changed assignments or worked for a new boss or left the company or started working for yourself. Who knows? And that's where reorganization comes in. So reorganization is random action that occurs when your reference level is violated. So that means that you have an abstract understanding of the way you want things to be. And when things are not meeting that satisfaction level, your brain says, all right, we got to do something to make sure we're meeting it. And you don't always know what the thing is. So your brain starts spitting out all kinds of off-the-wall things in an effort to find something to fix the situation. Sometimes when I'm stressed out, okay, so this is one thing, I actually wrote this part, but sometimes when I'm stressed out, I will go into like, you know what, being a janitor, cleaning or whatever, it doesn't sound so bad. And again, it's not that there's anything wrong with the profession in general, but for me, I actually don't like cleaning. I wouldn't want to do it all day. And so sometimes I'm so distressed by what I'm doing or what's going on in my life, particularly in the career area, that I'm like, hey, you know what? Just like, it wouldn't be so bad just like having a job that is just straightforward. Because sometimes it's hard to work in design. And that's just my brain saying like, yeah, you're really frustrated. We need to figure out a way to alleviate the stress. So what reorganization is that it's pattern matching. The way that we learn, and this again is in the book, the way that we learn is that we look for patterns. So when we encounter a problem and we don't know the solution, the logical thing is to try something new, to find a new pattern to fix the situation so that we can move forward. So the author says that it's sometimes tempting to try and convince yourself that everything is okay. Resisting or repressing the impulse to try something different slows down your learning. There's nothing odd or abnormal about dark nights of the soul. They're a signal that some perception about your life is out of control. Reorganization is required to gather more data about how to fix it. Once you learn how to bring the perception back, reorganization stops. And when you're feeling lost, I love this part. He says, when you're feeling lost, take heart. It's just your brain gathering the information it needs to make good decisions. Embrace the impulse to try something new, and it will help you exit reorganization faster. I love that. So the first thing he says is that dark nights of the soul are normal. It's normal to be going along in life. Everything is seemingly okay, but something doesn't feel right. And he says, embrace that. He's not saying embrace being sad, but it's okay to want to try something new. It's okay if you're like, there's nothing really wrong with my life, but I'm not happy with the way it is now. And I think I've gone through that recently where I'm like, my life's not bad, but I miss having fun. And so for me, I started like, what can I do? And so I did something fun. I bought a hammock for my living room because I missed the fun. Like, I just missed swinging when I was a kid. And I've just been going back to the things I used to do as a kid that I enjoyed, because I'm like, why did I ever stop those things? There's no reason an adult cannot get a coloring book and color. Like, there's no reason I can't play softball again. There's no reason I can't do anything I used to do. And so my brain's just kind of like, yeah, like, you're missing that fun part. And for me, it was like, oh, you're playful. You need to bring play back into your life because it brings you joy. And it's not childish. It's normal. It's part of who you are. So it's normal to have a season where you're struggling. It's normal not to always know how to solve the problem. And it's normal to have an impulse to just do something new. And so long as you're being healthy with it, you're not harming yourself or others, go for it, you know? Maybe you've never done dance before, or maybe you've never been good at something. It's okay to just jump out and do something new, even if it doesn't work out. That's the first thing. So next we're gonna talk about procrastination. So first, sometimes we know there's a problem, but we don't know how to fix it. Next, we know we need to fix a problem, but we don't have the motivation to fix it, right? So that would be procrastination. So here's what the author says. He says, let's take a moment to examine everyone's favorite character flaw, procrastination. Everybody does it. With too many things to do, putting off tasks until they feel urgent is natural. So he talks about how frustrating it is when you know that something needs to be done, but you just don't feel like doing it right now. I know I can relate to that. I can relate to that with laundry. I will wait till I have no laundry to do my laundry. I will wait till there are no dishes to do the dishes because I just don't want to do them. They have to get done. Nobody else is going to, it's not going to magically clean itself, but I don't feel like doing it. So I put it off, right? So what he says that I really liked, what this author says is that procrastination, as opposed to just being inaction, is actually conflict. And this helped me a lot. Procrastination is conflict. You want to do two things. You want to relax and you want the dishes clean. You want to have fun, but you need to do your work. And so when you're procrastinating, you've got these two temperature changes going on. And he said it's a little bit like, think of your AC, right? Either your AC can be on hot or it can be on cold. And if you have inner conflict, it's like your brain is switching constantly from hot to cold. While you may not be actually changing the temperature in the room, if you're constantly switching, you're using energy to flip that switch back and forth. So that's why you can do nothing all day and be exhausted, because you're in conflict inside. Like, oh, I know I should be doing this, but I want to do that. So what he says is that the only way to resolve conflict is to change your party's reference level or your environment. So I summarize this as redefine what success means. There's a book called The Now Habit, and a quote from it he pulls is that you can do something called unscheduling, for example. That's where you prioritize rest over work. And what he means by that is, instead of thinking about what you have to do the next day, think about when you want to relax the next day, and then schedule everything around that. So for me, I know that after work, I'm pretty much done. I want to relax. So I tried unscheduling, and it actually drastically helped. I began thinking of, how can I do everything I need to do before I get off of work? Is there a way I can do meal prep so I don't have to cook after work? Is there a way I can do laundry and have my outfits ready for the week? If I have something important to do, it has to wait till the morning. I try not to work late at night. And before, I was defining success by how many times I could check off all the things I had to do in a day. And I often overestimate my ability to get things done. So I would feel like a failure because the list felt so much longer than I could possibly accomplish. And in my mind, I wasn't being successful. And so I would procrastinate. Because I'm like, I'm not going to get it done anyway. Why spend the energy? But then I also felt bad for it, right? So I'm in conflict. So then what I did is I was like, I want to rest after 6 o'clock every day. By rest, I mean that I want to do non-brain taxing tasks. I don't want to be working. I don't want to have to do anything that's extremely difficult. I want to let my brain relax because I need that period of time each day to reconnect with my daughter, to cook with my family, if we're going to do dinner together. Even though I'm not going to lie, I'm not really I'm not much of the kind of person to cook often, but I need that time to recoup and relax. And so for me, once I shifted to how could I do everything I need to do before 6, I redefined what success meant for me. A successful day for me was resting at 6 o'clock. So when I couldn't get the long list done of things that just are really not that important, that shift in mindset was like, okay, did you do something with your daughter today? Did you sit down and do something fun today? Did you enjoy yourself a little bit? Okay, then you had a successful day. And so, yeah, when you're procrastinating, he says change your environment by redefining what success means. Okay, so we've talked about how we can know there's a problem, but we don't know how to define it, and what he called a dark night of the soul. It's normal to go through ups and downs. So we can accept that, hey, it's okay to just not always know what the problem is, but to know we need to do something to change. And we should not ignore that intuition. The next thing was, what do we do when we can define the problem, but we can't motivate ourselves to accomplish the goal? And so in that case, we redefine success so that we can prioritize what matters and give ourselves some clarity, right? So finally, we're going to talk about clarifying states of being. So I knew for a long time I wanted to be at peace. I wanted to be happy and not stressed because, like we talked about reorganizing, I just knew I constantly felt panicked. I constantly felt pressed for time. I constantly felt like my life was just a running list of to-dos. And I felt like that was all my life was going to be. It's just going to be me checking things off a list and never getting the list done and just being under tasked. And so this led me to frustration and reorganization. And so for me, I had a hard time figuring out, like, how can I live a life where I do things that are important to me, but I'm not stressed out all the time. I'm not constantly feeling like I'm at the end of my rope. So the section of the book that helped me here is when the author talks about something called states of being. And he says that emotional experiences aren't achievements because they fluctuate over time. You can be happy right now and upset an hour from now. That's true. Being happy is not an achievement. It's a quality of your present experience. States of being are decision criteria, not goals. It's okay to want to be happy. It's okay to want to be successful, but treating those states of beings as goals is just going to lead to frustration. So here is what the author recommended. Instead of treating these states as achievements, it's far better to think of them as decision criteria, ways of understanding whether or not your actions are leading to your desired results. States of being, like I want to be happy, for example, help you answer the question, is what I'm doing right now working? So we're talking about defining problems. How do we clarify really what our end goal is? So he says to break down complex states of being into smaller parts. He says that's more useful, and I found this to be really helpful too. Instead of using complex states of being like success and happiness, he said, decide what it means to you. So for me, I might say that not being stressed means that I feel like I have the time to enjoy my day. And feeling like having the time to enjoy my day means I did something that I find fun and I did not have to rush to do it. So it could be a walk. It could be just sitting in my house looking out the window. But whatever it is, not being stressed, that's how I defined it. So he used an example of saying being successful could be defined as working on things you enjoy with people you like and feeling free to choose what you work on and having enough money to live on without financial stress. Together, these states of being provide a more useful definition of success. if that's how I'm experiencing the world, I'm successful. And the same goes for happiness. Instead of saying you just want to be happy, maybe happiness is a combination of having fun, spending time with people you love, and feeling calm and free. So just like we invited others into a state of creativity by asking targeted questions, we can do that for ourselves. When we know that we want to be happy or successful, and we're using really abstract states of being to create these goals, it's going to be really hard to get there because we haven't defined the problem. We haven't defined the actions we need to take to create the happiness. And we haven't defined what it means to us. Happiness isn't the same for everybody. Success isn't the same for everybody. So finally, once we've defined our problem, we need to define how we're going to solve it. Okay, a little bit of a tip that he gave that helped me immensely these past few weeks. He talks about something called guiding structure. And I'm going to summarize it because I'm trying to keep the podcast pretty short. And also Sanai's waking up. Guiding structure is the idea that your environment is the largest determinant of your behavior. So when you want to change something, when you're trying to define your problems, when you're trying to bring about success or happiness, when you're trying to solve a problem, you're like, I'm not happy, I'm down, I'm depressed, I'm going through it. I say, take the example of weight loss. A lot of people take the approach of changing their behavior. I'm going to wake up tomorrow. I'm going to work out every single day for the next 6 to 8 weeks. That is not how you change the behavior. He says that you actually want to change the environment. So if you know that in order to be healthy, and that's one of your goals, and by be healthy, you mean you want to be comfortable in your body, you want to be able to achieve certain things, then set your environment for it. Get foods that you actually like that are good for you in your house, leave your shoes by your bed so when you wake up in the morning, you go and take that walk, Essentially, he says, set your environment for your success instead of you changing your behavior. If you set your environment, your behavior will follow. So for me, one thing I started doing, because again, my priority was I'm always stressed because I don't do things I enjoy often. And for me, I'm a morning person. I like to have a little bit of a morning, but I really haven't gotten to do that. So instead of kind of giving myself more things to do and feeling bad for not being able to achieve them by creating a long task list of ways I need to enjoy my morning, which makes enjoying my morning a task in itself, I decided to change my environment. I found an app that I could just hit play and it sets a routine for me and I don't have to think through what I'm going to do in the morning. And so I actually really like it because, it's got all the things I care about on there. Like, go read a real book for a few minutes. Make your breakfast, make your lunch. And for me, that setting that environment by having something outside of me manage my time for the first few minutes in the morning helped me to really come into the day and to feel good. If you're trying to, for me, I was trying to eat better food, like fruits and vegetables, because I noticed that I feel a lot better when I eat them. So that meant just not bringing certain foods into the house. So that meant just not bringing the certain foods in the house. If the foods aren't there, I can't eat them. But bringing in, dessert into the house when you're trying to not eat dessert, or trying to be like, oh, I'm just going to eat a little bit of it and, I'm just going to moderate myself, is not really going to set yourself up to actually achieve your goal. So change your environment first and your behavior will follow. And when you do find yourself struggling to achieve a goal or an action, like say you want to work out every day, or let's say you're trying to increase your skill set in something, instead of checking off the box, like, okay, today I did my lesson of Spanish, say you're learning Spanish, or hey, today I made healthy food, Instead of doing that, set your environment. And then when you don't do well, instead of blaming yourself and spending time beating yourself up, look at your environment. How was your environment set up? Did it serve you or did it hurt you? And focus on changing your surroundings to meet your needs, rather than internally focusing on yourself and trying to analyze that. And I think if you are an overthinker or you have anxiety, it's actually a really helpful process that helps me focus on what's around me and helps me to be present, rather than going off into the future and like, okay, I missed a day of exercise and now I'm never going to do it again. And I haven't been able to keep up with this before and I'm never going to be able to do it. And it's like, nope, just, okay, today I missed it. Was this a one-off thing? That's not a big deal. Was my environment set up for my success? Okay, we can do something about that. What can you do to practically start defining your problems in an effective way? So the first one is trust your perception. Just because you don't know the solution to the problem doesn't mean there isn't one. And it's okay to not 100% know what you are doing, as going up and down in life is normal. The second one is procrastination is conflict. When you procrastinate, identifying a way to reframe success helps you to stop shifting your energy between wanting to solve problems and wanting to rest. The third thing is break down complex states of being into actionable parts and use emotions to judge if a method is working instead of determining emotions as the end goal. So feeling happy isn't the goal. The actions are the goal. Do you feel happy after following those actions? That's how you determine your success. Finally, set a plan to change your environment, not your behavior. Behavior follows environment. So once you know the action you want to take, identify the environment you need to be in. That was a game changer for me, honestly. So that's it for today. Thank you for joining me. We're going to keep thinking like a designer. And I hope you're empathizing with yourself. You do need to have compassion for yourself. Life is hard, and in order to have a growth mindset, you have to have grace for the times that you're not going to be perfect. You have to have grace for the fact that you will let people down at times. But that's not the end. You can come back from that. You can grow. You can change. You can learn. You're not stuck. I hope that we continue with having empathy during conflict and controlling what we can control, which is our attitude, which is our approach. And empathy invites people to be creative with us instead of fighting against us. Finally, I hope you learned something today. Here's how we can define our problems. We cannot paint the walls before we address the foundation of the house. So address your problems, look them in the face. You have the ability to solve them. You've done it before and you can do it again. Finally, I just want to say this. Something caught my eye this week. And I think I just want to share it. There was a video, I don't know if it was TikTok or Instagram, but someone said, if you have nothing left, if you have nothing good going on, you can always be kind. And I just want to leave you with that. No matter what we're going through, no matter what problems we may have, what frustrations we may have, no matter what is going on, we can choose to be kind. We can choose to see the bright side of things. Even if the bright side is really small, we can choose to look at that. And I think in some ways that's a really empowering thought, that we can't always decide what happens to us. We can't magically give ourselves all the money in the world. We can't control the people around us and how they treat us. We can control ourselves, and we can control how we present ourselves in the world. And we can do that by choosing to be kind. So I'm going to leave you with that, and I will see you the next time I record. Please listen to this podcast on Apple or Spotify. You can save the show. Just look up The Creativity Cure. And again, I want you to be seen and celebrated. I'm not sure which way to put it, but I want you to be seen and celebrated. I've got these earrings on that say that. So join the newsletter. Go to BethanyJphotography.com and sign up. Also, I want to hear your questions. And if you're an artist or designer or creative, I want to hear from you. I would love to hear how you think through your problems. I want to hear what you would share with other people about how your creativity has helped you to navigate life's challenges. And so join the newsletter and you can do that. You can submit questions, you could submit audio, like a voicemail. You can also submit the name of somebody you want to see and celebrate. I want to give back to you, and I think that we can really build a community that is creative, that is connected, and that is kind. So again, thank you for joining me today. I'm Bethany Joy, and this is the Creativity Cure.